Hola, and welcome to the I Am Her Empowerment and Impact Summit for Career Women. Today, I have one of my good friends, Miss Zuri, here. Hey, Zuri.
Hey!
How are you?
I am fabulous, doing fantastic. Thank you.
Good, hopefully. Well, it would only suit this conversation for you being relaxed and ready, seeing what your topic is. Allow me to introduce you to Miss Zuri Walker. She transforms lives through coaching, and coaching is her calling. Zuri began her career managing and supporting multi-million-dollar change management projects for corporate and government clients, including MedLife, FAA, Homeland Security, and more. As a change and leadership expert, Zuri coached hundreds of executives and leaders. Seeking to understand deeper transformation, Zuri studied transformational coaching and various holistic modalities with experts and masters around the world. Here is my friend, Miss Zuri Walker. Yay! Yay! So I just have to say, this woman is a go-getter, doesn't care about what's in the way. She finds a way to get over it. If something pops up, she just does it. I am always amazed to see her in action. With that said, she traveled across country, something I would never do in a car. Let me tell you, I'd be like, fly me. But to travel across country, and the lessons I'm sure that she learned are just life-changing for her herself. Miss Zuri,
Yes.
can you tell us about this slowing down thing that you wanted to talk about? Slowing down to speed up. What is that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found in working with my clients, with professional women from all over the country, is one of the biggest problems that they have is being able to find more time to do the things that they want to. There's never enough time. And the frustration, the challenges that we wind up dealing with, trying to balance everything, trying to manage everything, it just gets impossible. And the thing is, because we live in a doer society, because we are ridiculously phenomenal at multitasking and juggling a lot, somehow we've come to believe that even in the struggles of doing too much, the answer is still in the doing. And it's like, oh, well, I just got to get here and then I can do this. Or I just need to we tell ourselves the story, maybe I need to get better at time management. Or maybe there's another tool for me to do this better. But it's always doing, doing, doing. And we never actually get a chance to step back and say, well, maybe that is all of the problem right then and there, is the doing, as opposed to stopping and looking at, well, what's going on with my being, and why is it that I'm doing so much? And when we're in it, we're so wrapped up in the doing, it seems like everything, we have to do everything, and there's no room, there's no choice but to keep doing. And that's the biggest fallacy. It's just not true. And so that's where, if you can start to make a little space to be able to look at your doing and to be able to kind of observe and see what's going on, you'll start to see and can loosen up to see where it's actually not the doing that's the problem, it's my being. And if I can release some of the things that I'm doing by slowing down, I will actually create more energy and so forth. Because I find that when we, if we sit and look at how we spend our time, we spend our time basically in all the different ways. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways in what we're doing, but there's like 5 chunks of how we spend our time. And we're doing the things that must get done. And the thing is, there's actually not a whole lot of things, if you really, really think about it, that are in this category. We put everything in this category, and that's why it's elevated and it's huge, high priority. But really, Is that a must? Is that a must that you gotta go buy the sparklies to bedazzle your daughter's homework project, or bedazzle the cupcakes for the bake sale that you have to bake from scratch? Really? Is that, is it a must? So we do the things that we must do. Really, did you need to go that extra 10 miles in the work project? So doing the things that we must, and seeing it's not really that many things in the realm of life that must get done in order for us to live our lives. And then the next category is doing the things that we think that we should do or need to do. And that's a really big one. All sorts of things from work come in there. This is where we tie in the work projects. We sign on and agree to do something else. We sign on and agree to do all sorts of different things, and that puts us in that one. And then sometimes those, because we sign up thinking we should do it, a lot of those wind up sifting down to the next category of doing things we just don't want to do. But we allow ourselves to keep doing it. And so because of those first three, a lot of times it creates a huge amount of suffering. And then we spend a lot of time, because now we're suffering and we're exhausted and we're stressed and we're just pushed to our extreme. Now we spend time suffering and doing nothing because we're too stressed. And then we wind up just distracting ourselves, and we blink and we've spent 2 hours scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, distracting ourselves. And you, oh dear Lord, and YouTube, or heaven forbid, news feeds, and then it shows all the other clips you can look at. So but you're not really actually doing anything. You're just distracting or in the suffering. Mm-hmm. And then the final category is actually doing what you want to do, which we don't spend entirely enough time in. And so as you can see, it's all those first categories that it's not about doing more of that, it's about doing less of that. And when you can start to see and authentically categorize it, it gets a lot easier to be like, wait, do I really have to do this? Is this necessary for the vitality and livelihood of myself or my family or my work? No. It's all the other things we've added to it or the meanings we've given it.
I agree. Very pertinent for today, because I just changed some things. And I'm like, no, this is what I really want to do so that I don't have to hold back. And it's hard as a giver to hold back. So we end up selling ourselves short because we just give anyway, and it's just not reciprocated back to us what we've given. So very pertinent and timely for today. So is this really even a problem of managing our time or productivity with trying to keep up with our time? Or is it just because we've overwhelmed ourselves with all the different things that we must do and should do, need to do, and, do what we don't want to do? Is it because of that, or is it because of productivity, or what?
Yeah, I mean, truth is, I feel that especially we're ridiculously productive, and we're really good. Most of us tend to be really good at managing our times. And sometimes we're not, but that's because we get stuck in that suffering box. But yeah, most of us, we're really good at it. And that's part of our problem, is we'll allow ourselves to keep doing and taking on more with it. And so the better question, even instead of before you start looking at and digesting, okay, now Zori's telling me something's got to come off, I got to do less, to start with, why am I doing these things? And to look at what is the meaning that I'm attributing to it as to why it is important, why I put this kind of facade or mislabeled it as a must do, or tell myself I want to do it, knowing good and well I don't want to do it. And because there's something we're trying to get out of it. And so whether it's whether it's at work and we take on a project that's even out of the scope of what we're doing, or, we come up with, or whether it's work or business, or we come up with the extra thing that needs to be done that really doesn't need to be done to meet our bottom line. But we do it because there's a meaning we're giving it. Whether that meaning is, am I trying to I think I need to do this because I will be seen as blank, because I will receive blank, where we say yes to our spouse or significant other or someone in the community. Well, what is it you're really trying to get by adding on to those yeses? Because it's not about the thing. A lot of times, I speak to women and a lot of my clients are like, I couldn't care less about that. What I was really trying to do was prove my worth. What I was really trying to do was prove I'm a valuable person here, or, it's what we're seeking to get out of these exchanges that we're signing on to. So when we can actually step back and see ourselves for what our deeper intent is, now that's when you can really start accessing your power at a deeper level, because you realize, wait a second, well, first of all, that which I'm trying to get, I'm really not going to get from this person or this interaction or doing this anyways. And so how about I actually just become clear on what I'm trying to get and authentically meet that need, so now I'm free, I don't need to do that. Or the things I need to prove that I'm a good mother. I work with all sorts of working women and entrepreneurs who are working moms and driving themselves crazy because they're driving their kids all over town, and they're like, no, but I got to do this for my kid because they're, the kids are in a rat race at 10 years old, and we got to do this and sign up for this and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, really? What are you really trying to do? And they're trying to say, I'm, connecting with my kid, but you're not. You're not actually doing the thing you're intending. And as a matter of fact, a lot of women finding that they're pushing their kids away because we're so big in the struggle, or when you do have time, you no longer have the energy to be present.
Yeah, because you ran them all over. And when your child is doing a different activity, someone else is coaching them, you're not spending time with them. Spending time with them is one-on-one interaction. And it's about the perception of spending time. Maybe they wanted to have that and they didn't have that when they were little. So they figure, I'll give this to my child and that will make me this better parent and I'll spend more time with them. But that's not really what's happening. So very valid points. So is this something that you struggled with before in the past?
Oh, yeah. Big time. That was my life. I mean, we're in a doing era, and especially I'm from the East Coast in the DC area. And so we get in unconscious doing competitions where it's like, how are you doing? And then you give your list. They didn't ask, what are you doing? But wait, that's our answer, is how am I doing? Like, oh my gosh, well, I got so much going on and I got to do this and I got to do that. And what's going, and I got my list of work, and then I got my list of community activities, and I got my social list. And so, I came to realize I was my identity was built on my doing. And that a lot of times is why we don't, unconsciously, we don't want to let go of our doing, because then it's, who am I without all of these things that I do? Who am I really? And you know what? That's a really great place to be. That's a really good question to have and to ask yourself. Because when you can start accessing that place, that's when you open up to a whole different depth where you can access your power and live your purpose. And that's where I realized, for me, I was just maxed out. I was working 16-hour days, and then I'd have the nerve to try and go and be involved in activities and so forth. And it was killing me. It was burning me out. I was 100 pounds heavier than I am now. I was morbidly obese. I was stressed. I was exhausted. I was a bit of a control freak because my life was so chaotic inside. I tried to control everything on the outside. I know that's going to sound familiar to some of you women out there. And I finally just realized, this isn't it. This isn't why I was put on this earth. This isn't what I'm meant to do. What if I could actually do that, and to really connect with that? We're entitled to live our purpose. We don't have to keep running the race. Yes, people are going to make it difficult for you at first, because we're all in it. We've all unconsciously signed up to be in this same, in the same rat race, but it wasn't worth it to me. It was literally killing me. And I'm very thankful, I got into the work I do now. It's just my own journey of healing and freeing myself.
And I think the fact that when you are around other people who either do the same thing, so they think you do what they do, or you've trained people to throw stuff at you for you to do. That's their responsibility. And you say yes. And so you just take it on and do it. Or you volunteer all the time. So you're taking that on. Everybody is used to those behaviors that you trained them that this is what you do. And now you have to untrain yourself as well as those people that are around you, that this is no longer the program you're adhering to.
Yeah. And that can definitely be a challenge.
I agree. Well, what did you do to solve it and how did you figure it out? Was there actually, you know what, was there one thing that kind of tipped, okay, I fell off the cliff now, I can't do this anymore? Did you have one incident that did that for you? Or did you just, you looked in the mirror, or you woke up one day and was like, I hate my life? Like, what happened?
No, yeah, I needed the trifecta. I'm a hard-headed woman because, you give me one, I'm just going to solve the problem and keep going. I was a management consultant by trade, so I can fix it. My best friend calls me Olivia. When she was so happy when Scandal came out, she was like, that's who you are, Olivia Pope. And she was very happy when I put down my white hat. I had the trifecta. It started with losing my mother. And that was like the slow burn because I was very good at covering up the pain of that loss. And then in the course of a month, relationship I was in ended, broke my heart, and there was a government freeze, so the contract I was on was frozen, and I was living with a housemate, working to buy my first investment property, and she was like, you're too much of an alpha person for me, and kicked me out. Oh, and wow. So it was like love, home, work, whoosh, got wiped away.
And period of time.
In a very short period of time.
Wow.
And I didn't see it as such at the time, but it was a huge blessing. It was a really huge blessing. At the time, I just started picking up the pieces and going to fix them again. I was like, okay, you're kicking me out, fine. Inconvenient, but I'll get another place. Doing this, I got saved. I just started doing what I always did, and something stopped me because there was something inside that said, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to keep doing this. I don't want to fix this. And I had already started slowly on my journey, and I had started knowing and uncovering my deeper purpose. But when you're in the trenches of our lives and our world of doing what we've always done that everyone else does, it's hard to uproot yourself. So it took
something of that magnitude to uproot you because you weren't going to do it yourself.
Right. And I tell my clients, usually when women come to work with me, it's either because their life is blown up in front of their faces and like I'm about to lose it, or, they're connected and I know I want to change. I have no idea how to do it, but I want to change. And, unfortunately, sometimes it takes the blow up for us to start. And I said, you know what, it's the best. If life blew up, great. Because now it's already up. Right. And it's already up and tossed up. And now you get to actually consciously create what it is that you want. You get to consciously, stuff got snatched from you. Great, let it go. And then what else needs to get let go in this chaos? Right. And now you get to, but it's not just about fixing it. It's about then doing, and this is the biggest part that a lot of us don't want to see. It's doing the deep work, doing the inner work so I can see what was there or why it was there. And the other biggest piece for me was to realize that I had been choosing that, to realize that this was a life of my creation. Because we like to, it's easier to be the victims and, well, this person did this to me and this person did that to me. And I couldn't have controlled how this happened. But there were a lot of pieces that we did control. There were a lot of things, like you said, that those agreements where we train people to treat us that way. That's what we were signing on for. They're just going on with the same unconscious agreement you set up.
Yeah.
But, it hurts to realize and see yourself for what you created that we didn't like. But the other part that is the big aha is if you can see and authentically own that this is of my creation, then you're really starting to tap into your power. Like, okay, I created a bit of some crap for myself, but I created it, which means I have the power to get out of it now. I have the power. If I can create something that powerful that was that hard to get out of, I can create something that powerful that I love.
Right. Absolutely. What simple actions can women take today, or is there anything that they can do to change this for themselves, or is there a system, a formula, or something they can do to change where they are if they want to change? And it necessarily hasn't blown up, but is there something that they can do? Is there a starting point?
Yeah. Well, the starting point is always the desire and to make a decision that I want to start, that I want to change. And, truth be told, we love the formulas and we love the tools because it's like, okay, I can just go and do this. And, there's some broad-based things, but what we're really talking about is transforming your life. And for every person, that's our own journey. And it's easier. We want the tool because then we don't have to just actually deal with our parts. And so that is the formula. The formula is to go within. But one tool that will make it easier to kickstart it, that you can start today, right now, to get it started, like that level 1 is to get out of the suffering, because you can't make good decisions. You can't make powerful changes in your life while you're suffering.
Okay, so what is suffering? What is that? Like, you hear they hear you say suffering. We know what suffering is, but what is suffering? Like, I'm not suffering. I'm fine. I got a house. I got a family. I got a job. I got food in my refrigerator. I'm not suffering. What's suffering? Like, I'm unhappy sometimes, but suffering, I don't know what suffering is. What is suffering?
Thank you. That's a great question. And suffering, it's a state, you're right, because it's like, well, I'm not physically suffering. And that's where we can tell ourselves the story, like, oh, my life is fine on the outside. But it's where you get honest, because it's a state of mind, it's a state of emotions of being where you were in contraction. Are you right now or in your day, how much of your day is filled in joy and expansion and gratitude? Or how much are you in contraction? Are you snapping at people? Are you complaining? Are you feeling like a victim? Are you frustrated a lot? Do people frustrate you a lot of times? Do you get angry easily? All of these things are parts of the suffering state that we're in. The same way when your kids come to you, do they bother you every time because they're nagging, driving you crazy? Now, granted, they can be a nag. There's no question about it. But is it causing you suffering because there's a deeper level of that pain and frustration that you're dealing with? Those are all the little indicators. When you're in bed at night and it's time to go to bed, do you like, this was a great day. I had, my bumps but this was great. I'm blessed. I'm thankful. Or like, oh my God, this is what I didn't get done today. Why can't I get it together? How am I going to do, when we kind of suffer, like just start noticing the dialogue that's happening inside. And I know for me, and, still always work with it, but we tend to be our worst critics, our biggest challengers, the most, the hardest people on ourselves. That dialogue, is that dialogue encouraging you and rooting you on, or is it putting you down and telling you that you got to lose weight and you got rolls and you got a wrinkle in there? And is it telling you you're not doing your best and you're not doing good enough and you got to do more? And that's all part of that suffering. And that drains us. Mm-hmm. And part of why we can't, that's why I say you got to start with, you will do more by doing less, is because it's sucking our energy and our vitality in that suffering. And so to get out of the suffering state is so powerful to do. And there's all sorts of techniques, but the first and foremost, the simplest thing in that suffering is to stop. First of all, take a breath, because when you're suffering, then you're not actually getting enough oxygen to your brain. So literally breathe and bring that into your body. and allow yourself to be in authentic gratitude. And I love how you said, it's like, I'm not suffering. I've got a house, I've got a job, and this and this and that. But sometimes we use that as a story, but we don't actually, like sit and allow ourselves to be in gratitude. Like, whatever it is that I'm struggling with right now, wait a second, my life is blessed. My life is phenomenal. There are probably several billion people in this world who would love to have my life. The things I'm struggling with, people would just, would pray to switch with me to have that. So find that unique gratitude for yourself, and that will readily change that state in so many different ways. So that's the first little baby step that I can give. And then there's all sorts of other pieces, but to get out of the suffering and start to retrain, because we've taught ourselves to be in patterns of suffering. And then those around us are suffering. So that becomes, that becomes the norm. Exactly. Like I said, I'd speak to someone and I speak to a friend, and we're kind of having the conversations on like outdoing the other on who's suffering more. Well, no, I'm suffering more at work because my boss did this, or I'm suffering more in my business because, I've got this crazy client. Oh, well, I'm suffering more because in time and I got to do this and this. And we try and outdo each other in the suffering. We don't even notice it, but this is what we do, so just to see how much we built that into our essence of who we are.
Right. I agree. I did the sensory deprivation tank for my birthday.
Ah.
Yes. And a lot of people were, did you like it? Oh, I don't know if I can deal with it. Oh, it's so close and this. And I'm like, well, because I went to yoga, I know how to breathe. I know how to just focus here and just stop the outside world and just breathe. And for a person that does a lot, it can be a big challenge. But when you learn something that can help you to cope, not just to say, okay, hold off for a minute, but to get out of the rut, like you were saying, of being so busy and doing everything. So when I went back, and other people were asking me, well, how was it? Did you like it? This, that, and the other. And I said, but I'm claustrophobic and I have anxiety. And I said, well, I can show you a tool to help you just by breathing. So I said, just do it now before you go into that situation. Just do the breathing now. So that way you can see how it is to get used to it, to get out of being stressed, to get out of, thinking about everything. Just do it on your smoke break. Maybe don't smoke one time and just breathe and focus on you. If you get stressed, just take a deep breath. So then they're coming to me and like, oh my gosh, that was so relaxing. Oh my goodness, I really like it. I'm like, there you go. Just get out of all of what you normally do and just breathe, to allow yourself that space that you're talking about to just be there and not worry about everything else. So answer this question for me. Why do strong women who are capable of handling everything have such a hard time asking for help? I know they're super
strong women.
Got to do everything. I'm super strong. Don't need no help. I got it all together. Not supposed to be weak.
Yeah, and and I actually call it the strong woman syndrome, because part of what we've learned, and then part of what we've created in the monsterdom of being strong, amazing women. And there's really everything is always multi-levered, but there's two pieces to it. One is that we don't recognize and honor our strengths for ourselves. And so it's like, even when we know we're strong, it's kind of a little bit of a surface, and we don't allow ourselves to truly receive and connect with how powerful and amazing we are, to connect with that, to embody that, to celebrate that. Part of the other piece then, because we're not doing that and embodying it, we've come to believe the story that our strength and essence and power and magnificence of who we are has been earned, and it has to be earned, and it has to keep being earned. And we earn it by doing. And so when we believe the lie that the magnificence of who we are is by doing something, then of course it makes sense we're going to attach the meaning that by asking and receiving and not doing, that takes away our strength. That puts us in an area of weakness and vulnerability, when the truth is it's quite the opposite.
Very much so.
I mean, if you think about it, and this is where I really started studying the giants in the world, the Oprah Winfrey's, the Elon Musk's, the people, who were just achieving ridiculous success. If you look at them, they don't know how to do crap. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they don't know how to do. You know why? Because they ask for help, because they have learned and mastered and know that in order to bring their gifts to the world and to be the amazing person that they are, living a whole bunch of other stuff, that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you can't do, and you got to ask for help. And that's what other people are for, because then that's their strength. And so it's all about the meaning that we attach to it. And we have been trained, and then we accept and we put it on the others, that the meaning is we can't ask. And we feel alone. So many of us, even when we're in community, we're not, because we don't feel we have permission to truly be vulnerable, to truly, speak our truths. And that's one of the reasons why I put in, I believe in the power of groups, where you can be in a sacred space to be able to have and receive authentic support. And it's okay, and you have permission to show up as yourself.
Well, that's a perfect intro for me to ask you, how can these ladies get a hold of you real quick? And do you have any special gift or anything that you would like to share with the ladies?
Yes, of course. And I just want to first thank you, Kourtney, for doing this and putting this together, because you are an amazing woman, and I'm so delighted to be invited to be a part of this, and all of these beautiful women that you've brought together. And so I would love to keep the conversation going. And if you are feeling connected, like, yes, I want to know more. I want to, I really am ready to start creating this change. Check me out on my website, zoriwalker.com. And I love hearing from people. You can email me directly, zori@zoriwalkercoaching.com. And I do have a free gift. I love giving away stuff. And if you go to zoriwalker.com/my gift, it will be there waiting for you, and just sign up to receive it. And I would love that. I will say, make sure to get the /my gift. I set this up specifically for the women who are listening to this, so you're not going to see it on the website, zoriwalker.com, but add the my gift and it'll be there waiting for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, my dear. I know you got a lot going on, so I appreciate your wisdom and your time. And that's it for Miss Zori Walker, ladies. I hope you have been blessed and enjoyed the conversation. So until next time, I'm Kourtney Coleman. Stay true to the real you. Bye-bye.